What if I told you that one of the biggest names in hip-hop, Kanye West, was sitting in a courtroom today, surrounded by accusations of sex trafficking and racketeering, all while his close friend, Diddy, faces some of the most shocking charges of his career? As the stakes get higher, we're not just talking about a legal battle. This is a full-on spectacle with drama, secrets, and whispers behind the scenes. But the real question is, what's Kanye's role in all this? Is he there to stand by his friend? Or is there something more happening beneath the surface? Today, in the heart of the Sean Combs federal courthouse, things got real. Diddy's defense team and the prosecution aren't the only ones under scrutiny. Kanye's unexpected appearance raised even more eyebrows, and not just in the courtroom. Let's dive into the explosive day that had everyone talking, and what we're only beginning to uncover.
Kanye West's surprise appearance. Kanye West, one of the most unpredictable figures in music, made a surprise appearance at the Sean Combs federal courthouse today, sending shockwaves through the courtroom. But here's the twist. While the rumors had been swirling all morning, it wasn't entirely clear whether Kanye was actually inside the courtroom. Court reporters were left questioning, was Kanye there to show support for his longtime friend Diddy, or was there something else brewing beneath the surface? His appearance was a rare spectacle in itself, especially given the gravity of the trial. But here's the kicker. Kanye didn't sit in the main courtroom. Instead, he was allegedly placed in the overflow room, a spot that's often reserved for visitors who can't get a seat in the actual trial room. Now imagine the tension. Here's Kanye, a huge figure in the hip-hop world, sitting in the shadows of one of the most publicized trials of the year. And after just 15 minutes of being there, Kanye reportedly left without saying much. Was it a quick show of support, or did he get cold feet? Why was he kept away from the main event? The intrigue surrounding Kanye's brief appearance only deepens the mystery of this trial. Was it all a simple visit, or is there something more happening behind the scenes? Stay tuned, because this might be just the first of many unexpected twists.
Section 2. Diddy's controversial reactions in court. While Kanye's surprise appearance made waves, it was Diddy's behavior in the courtroom that had everyone on edge. For those following the trial, one thing became crystal clear. The energy in that room was anything but calm. As the prosecution laid out its case, Diddy, the hip-hop mogul, wasn't just sitting quietly. He was visibly reacting to the testimony. Reports from the courtroom reveal that during the cross-examination, Diddy could be seen shaking his head, almost as if he was disagreeing with the very evidence being presented. But that wasn't all. As the witness, a special agent from Homeland Security, spoke about the damning evidence found at Diddy's properties, Diddy's body language told its own story. He wasn't just an observer, he was actively engaged, even under the table, giving what appeared to be an under-the-table thumbs up to his defense attorney. And that's where things got interesting. The judge noticed the reactions, but instead of a stern reprimand like the last time, the judge allowed Diddy's subtle gestures to slide, saying that it's a normal human reaction. However, the judge did issue a warning. If it happens again, they'll take more drastic measures. But don't be fooled. This wasn't the only time Diddy's behavior raised questions. His lawyer, Brian Steele, was quick to defend his client's actions, saying that Diddy had been nothing but professional throughout the trial. In fact, he pointed out that Diddy had made a conscious effort to avoid eye contact with the jury and was following the court's rules more diligently than before. Despite these defenses, the jury's perception of Diddy's reactions could play a significant role in how they digest the trial's most explosive moments. Was Diddy simply frustrated, or is there something deeper happening here that's not visible to the court's eye? Only time will tell.
Section 3. Shocking audio tapes and testimonies. Just when we thought the trial couldn't get any more intense, an explosive piece of evidence was dropped that had everyone talking. For the first time, the jury and the world heard the voice of Christina Corm, a key figure in the case who had only been seen in photographs up until now. And let's just say the contents of the tapes didn't exactly paint a pretty picture. These audio recordings were a bombshell, revealing conversations about a sexually explicit video found on an iPad belonging to Diddy's staff. And as if that weren't shocking enough, the conversations surrounding the video included key details about how the staff reacted when they discovered the disturbing footage. Jonathan Perez, a staff member, testified about his conversations with both Christina and Diddy. Perez explained that he initially spoke with Diddy about the discovery, but it was clear that Diddy wanted to keep this matter under wraps. In fact, the idea was to delete the video from the iPad before it became a bigger issue. But Perez hesitated. He knew this could come back to haunt them, so he decided to hold on to the evidence. Christina's voice on the tape reflected the gravity of the situation as she questioned Perez about what happened next. She even mentioned checking security cameras in Diddy's house to confirm who was involved. The tension was palpable. Was this an isolated incident or a sign of something far more sinister at play? The audio tapes opened a door into the internal workings of Diddy's operation, and what they revealed was unsettling. Christina's calm yet measured voice contrasted sharply with the severity of the conversation, hinting that the stakes were much higher than anyone could have imagined. With this audio now on record, the court and the public are left with more questions than answers. What else is hidden behind closed doors? And just how deep does this investigation go? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.
The juror controversy. While the courtroom drama unfolded with shocking testimonies and explosive audio, there was another tension-filled issue brewing behind the scenes, a juror controversy that threatened to derail the proceedings. The day began with whispers about a juror who was suddenly under scrutiny. The question was, should this juror remain on the panel? The government had raised concerns about potential deceit, citing inconsistencies in the jurors' statements. It's not uncommon for legal teams to question a juror's fitness for duty, but the intensity surrounding this one had everyone on edge. The juror had reportedly made a comment to the jury staff, which sparked the investigation into whether he was being truthful on his jury questionnaire. At first, it seemed like the defense was not buying into the government's claims. Their stance? The juror had been questioned multiple times already, and the defense didn't want to unnecessarily single him out or make this an issue that could cause more harm than good. But things didn't stop there. The judge called the juror to the stand for further questioning, creating an unexpected moment of suspense. The government argued that the juror's residence status was questionable, suggesting that he might not have been fully honest about where he lived, which could potentially disqualify him from serving on this jury. The defense pushed back, arguing that questioning this juror any further could damage his reputation and influence his fellow jurors. Was this an attempt to dismiss another black juror, as the defense claimed? Or was there something truly concerning about the juror's background? As the judge weighed the arguments, the stakes grew higher. The defense even consulted with Diddy, who gave his approval to keep the juror on the panel. But the government wasn't backing down, insisting that the inconsistencies needed to be addressed. The drama surrounding the juror added a layer of uncertainty to an already explosive trial. For now, the juror remained seated, but with the judge promising to review both sides' arguments before making a final decision, it's clear that this issue could resurface at any moment. The question lingers: will this juror play a pivotal role in the outcome of the trial, or will his potential dismissal end up being the twist no one saw coming? Keep an eye on this, because the jury's fate could change everything.
The tension in the courtroom wasn't just reserved for Diddy and his legal team. It had begun to spill over into his family dynamics, adding another layer of drama to the already high-profile trial. While Diddy himself remained the focal point of the charges, his family's involvement, or lack thereof, was making waves in its own right.
One of the most surprising moments came when Diddy's son, Christian Combs, walked into the courtroom wearing a bold statement, a Free Combs t-shirt. Now, you might be wondering, how in the world did that slip through the cracks of courtroom protocol? After all, courtroom rules are usually pretty strict about what can and can't be worn, especially when jurors are present. What's even more shocking is that despite the glaring message on his shirt, no one told Christian to remove it or change. The court staff didn't bat an eye. The question on everyone's lips, why? Was this some sort of subtle power move or just a case of an innocent fashion choice? It's easy to see why this caught so much attention. A shirt with the words Free Combs clearly makes a statement, one that could potentially influence the jury's perception. But did the jurors even notice? Christian's shirt wasn't as obvious as it could have been, as he wore it under a mesh top, but the implications were still there. Some question whether this was an intentional move to sway the courtroom's mood, or if it was just a simple show of familial support. The fact that the court let it slide raised eyebrows. It wasn't just about the shirt itself, but what it represented in the context of a trial where emotions are running high. Diddy's defense team no doubt would prefer to maintain control over every element of the trial, but with his son wearing such a statement, it feels like the line between legal proceedings and personal sentiment is blurring. As the trial continues, expect the presence of Diddy's family and their actions to be closely scrutinized. Christian's shirt may have been just the tip of the iceberg in a case where every detail, down to the smallest gesture, could be a calculated move. But for now, it's clear. Diddy's family is making its presence known, and in a trial like this, every move matters.
As the trial drags on, the revelations keep coming, and nothing has been as jaw-dropping as the discovery made at Diddy's Los Angeles property. This wasn't just a minor detail, it was a game-changer, casting a shadow over everything we thought we knew about the hip-hop mogul's lifestyle. What was found? Weapons, drugs, and a disturbing amount of baby oil and lubricants. Yes, you heard that right. The list of items seized from Diddy's home seems straight out of a criminal investigation thriller. Authorities uncovered an arsenal of weapons, including rifles, Glock handguns, and magazines loaded with ammunition. But it wasn't just the weapons that had everyone talking. It was the sheer volume of drugs and items tied to a much darker world. Among the evidence, ketamine residue in envelopes marked with the letter K, which was believed to stand for the powerful dissociative drug, and over 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide. At first glance, it might seem absurd. Why would someone need so much baby oil? But it's important to understand the context. These items, along with the drugs, were found in the security room of Diddy's sprawling estate, an area that was meant to be a fortified hub for protection, not for hiding illicit activities. Special Agent Andre Lemon, who testified in court, painted a chilling picture. He described how the security room was packed with guns, ammunition, and tactical gear, raising alarms about the potential for illegal activities. The defense tried to downplay the findings, emphasizing that the guns were confined to the security room, away from areas where children lived. They argued that the weapons were part of a security setup, given Diddy's high-profile status and the need for protection. But was it really that simple? The defense focused heavily on questioning the specifics of the investigation. They pointed out that law enforcement didn't take photos of the room until after they entered, questioning the accuracy of the crime scene documentation. Was everything being presented to the jury an accurate reflection of what was actually found, or was it being manipulated to fit a narrative? And it doesn't stop there. The presence of drugs, especially ketamine, in what was essentially Diddy's private safe zone raises further questions. What exactly was going on behind the walls of that mansion? Was this a case of a just-in-case security setup, or something much darker tied to Diddy's alleged criminal activities? The evidence discovered at Diddy's LA property adds fuel to the fire of racketeering and sex trafficking charges. It paints a portrait of a man who, on the surface, is known for his luxury and fame, but beneath it all has been allegedly entangled in a web of crime and secrecy.
With this new evidence on the table, the jury and the public are left to wonder, what else has yet to be uncovered? And how deep does Diddy's involvement in these criminal activities truly go? The story is far from over, and the next chapters could be the most explosive yet.
Diddy's legal strategy. As the trial continues to unfold, the real question becomes, how is Diddy's legal team handling the mounting evidence? And more importantly, how is he trying to deflect the most damning accusations? The defense strategy is becoming clearer, and it's clear they're going to great lengths to paint a very different picture from the one the prosecution is presenting. One of the most telling moments in today's proceedings came during the cross-examination of Special Agent Andre Lemon, who had detailed the weapons, drugs, and disturbing items found at Diddy's LA property. The defense didn't just sit back and accept these revelations, they went on the offensive, carefully dissecting the evidence and questioning the validity of the investigation itself. Their focus was on the security room, where all the guns and ammo were stored, and they were determined to make one point clear. These items were contained in a specific area designed for protection, not to be used for any illegal activities. Mark Agnall, the defense attorney, made it a point to repeatedly ask Agent Lemon about the state of the security room when law enforcement arrived. Specifically, whether the door was locked, whether there were photographs taken of the room before it was disturbed, and whether anyone could confirm the exact positioning of the items. It was almost as if they were trying to poke holes in the very foundation of the prosecution's narrative, suggesting that perhaps the evidence wasn't as clean as it was being presented. By highlighting the lack of photos and details around the condition of the room before the authorities entered, the defense painted a picture that the guns and drugs found at Diddy's property weren't part of some grand criminal operation, they were merely part of a standard security setup. Diddy, they argued, was simply a man with a large estate and a need to protect himself, and the items seized by law enforcement weren't evidence of racketeering, but of paranoia and safety precautions. But here's where the defense's strategy gets really interesting. They didn't just focus on the physical evidence, they also worked hard to humanize Diddy. They presented him as a family man, someone who was careful about the safety of his children and loved ones. Brian Steele, Diddy's attorney, made it clear that the mogul had been following the rules inside the courtroom and respecting the judge's orders. In fact, Steele argued that Diddy had been professional, even distancing himself from any direct interaction with the jury. No nodding, no eye contact, just a businessman trying to fight his way through one of the most dangerous legal battles of his life. The defense team is presenting a picture of a man caught in a web of misunderstandings, overblown allegations, and exaggerations. They're trying to create doubt in the jury's mind by suggesting that many of the allegations against him are being blown out of proportion, and that what was found at his properties doesn't tell the whole story. But can they actually convince the jury? With so many explosive pieces of evidence and the mounting pressure from the prosecution, the question remains, is Diddy's defense team strong enough to keep him from being dragged into the criminal underworld that the trial is slowly uncovering? The strategy might sound convincing at first, but as more evidence is presented, it's becoming clear that Diddy's defense has an uphill battle ahead. Will they be able to deflect the charges and paint him as the victim in all of this? Or will the weight of the evidence be too much for even the most skilled lawyers to shake off? Only time will tell.
Conclusion. As we near the end of today's proceedings, one thing is crystal clear. This trial is far from over, and every moment feels like a potential turning point. From Kanye West's brief appearance in the overflow room to the explosive revelations about Diddy's LA property, the drama has only intensified, and it's clear that there are still many layers left to peel back. Each new piece of evidence, from the shocking audio tapes to the juror controversy, adds more fuel to a fire that's already burning bright. Diddy's legal team is doing everything they can to steer the narrative in their favor, but the prosecution isn't backing down. The stakes are higher than ever, and every detail, no matter how small, seems to hold the key to the trial's outcome. What we're witnessing isn't just a courtroom battle, it's a high-stakes spectacle that could alter the course of Diddy's legacy forever. As the trial continues, we'll be watching for the next bombshell, the next unexpected twist, and the next shocking revelation that could change everything. Will Diddy's defense hold up against the mounting evidence, or will the prosecution succeed in exposing the full extent of the allegations against him? And as for Kanye West, what role will he continue to play in this unfolding drama? One thing is certain, we're only scratching the surface of what's to come. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and it's only getting more intense from here.